figured it'd be a good idea, since I've been your pastor for about 6 or 7 years now, that you all should hear my story. So I want to go ahead and just tell you a little bit about who I am and why I accepted Christ. When I was growing up, I was born into a family with 5 other children. I was number 3 out of 6. Now, I don't know how many of you come from a large family, but when there are that many kids, there's always inevitably one who doesn't receive the same amount of attention that everybody else does. Can anybody else relate to this? Yep, okay. I was that kid. I was the one that was overlooked, oftentimes, I felt. I realized this at a very young age. By 6 years old, I realized that I was receiving less attention than everyone else in my family. 6 years old. Very sad. I don't know why people are laughing. So by the time I'm 6, I'm starting to realize that I'm getting less attention than everyone else. By the time I'm 8 or 9 years old, I'm starting to believe a lie that I'm not worthy of love like the rest of my family is. That my parents don't love me as much as they love my brothers and sisters. Your parents are supposed to be the ones that love you no matter what. And I didn't feel like they loved me. So I began to look for other ways to fill that void, to feel loved. That turned into that turned into an eating disorder. By the time I was 12 years old, I began to eat food in order to fill that void. Because in my own mind, I figured if I am full, then at least I'm feeling something, rather than that void, that lack of love. This continued throughout my adolescence until my adulthood. And the funny thing is that when you start to eat, you get fat. You can laugh about it. I know it's true. So by the time I'm at 13, I start to plump up a little bit. I like to say that I was gaining muscle, but in retrospect, it was fat. It's clear to me now. By the time I was 16, I was bigger than most people. I started to think to myself that I am not loved, and I started to shift my focus to being fat as the reason. I started to think I'm unworthy of love because of my weight. Because I saw everyone else around me. I saw everyone else was healthy, skinny, happy, beautiful. All of these high schoolers, they've got it all together. Right. So I figured that was the reason why nobody loved me. I started to believe that lie. I started to believe another lie, saying why I wasn't able to be loved, why I was unworthy of love, that no one could love me. By the time I was 18 years old, I was over 330 pounds. 330 pounds. My self-esteem was shot. I didn't believe that anyone could love me, and anyone that tried to love me, I was unable to respond to. By the time I was 18, I was contemplating killing myself because I was so inept at being able to love and be loved. I didn't believe that there was any hope for me at all. 18 years old, and I was contemplating killing myself because of the lie that I believed that no one loved me. God got a hold of me, though. God told me to go to a place where there were people that could love me. He sent me to my church's college group. I went there very apprehensive. I didn't know what was going to happen. When I got there, there were people that surrounded me. There were people that showed me that love that Christ has for them and for me. I never knew what that was like. I didn't feel love from my family. I didn't feel love from my friends. I didn't feel love from anyone. But then I felt that love from those people, and I didn't understand it. The pastor at the time would keep talking about how God sees us, how God loves us, how we are worthy, how we are special, how we are able to be loved. And that, coupled with that love that was shown to me, it started to sink in. I started to see myself the way that God saw me, as special, as lovely, as worthy, as his child. And I started to believe it for myself. I had tried diets before. Diets are hard. They do not work. Well, obviously they do work, or else I'd still be very fat. But the thing is that those diets never worked before because I needed that food as that crutch. I didn't have something that was filling my life. I didn't have God's love in my life telling me that I was okay, that I was accepted. God's love came to me when I was at my worst, when I was overweight, when I was unsure of myself, and when I was feeling like no one loved me. That's when he loved me. He loves each and every one of us the same, no matter where we're at. I started to get a hold of that, and that overtook that need for food. That void was no longer there. It was filled with God's love. The reason I began to lose weight was actually out of spite for my father. It sounds ridiculous, but let me explain. My dad began this thing which he called a lifestyle change, which is where he ate healthier foods, stopped drinking soda, things like that. And he dropped 20 pounds right away. He kept going, he lost 60 pounds. And everybody around him said, "Wow, you look incredible, you look great." And I thought to myself, this is stupid. Why is everybody complimenting him? You know, what about me? So I decided that I was going to prove him wrong. I was going to prove his weight loss methods wrong. I started his lifestyle change and immediately lost 20 pounds. I lost that weight because that food was no longer a crutch for me. I didn't have to turn back to that. I had God's love. I didn't realize this at the time, though, and I was very upset. I was pissed that I was unable to prove him wrong. And then I thought to myself, wait a second. I just lost 20 pounds. Dang it, I have no reason to be pissed. God loves each and every one of us. It's because of God's love that I'm still here today. It's because of God's love and acceptance of me that I weigh 130 pounds less than I did 4 years ago. It's because of God's love and acceptance that I feel confident. It's God's love and acceptance that showed me that I am worthy. God desires each and every one of us. He desires each and every one of us so much that he sent his son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross for each and every one of us because we have worth. Because he has decided that we are worth that. If you've never accepted Christ before, if you've never realized that there is someone out there that loves you enough to where they'll do anything that it takes to get you, then you need to hear me right now and say that God does love you. God loves you that much that he sent his son to die on the cross for you, to establish a way for you to come to him. When someone loves you, they'll do anything it takes to get to you. And that's what we see God doing. Because of God's love, I'm still here. Because of God's love, I am here able to speak to all of you. Some people talk about God's love. My life is an example of it. If you've never accepted Christ before, I'm going to ask you at the end, when I'm done, to come up to me and talk after. If you want that love, I'm going to ask you to just come up to me and I will pray with you. I will show you what that love can look like.